My first anxiety attack occurred about a year into my director role. Now, I had experienced anxiety before, of course, but I could always breathe through it. That day was the day my nervous system stopped taking instructions from me. So the slow, deep, intentional breaths were doing nothing to loosen that absolute tightening in my chest. The air just wouldn't come in all the way. There was nothing catastrophically wrong, there was no crisis or emergency. It was just a regular Friday morning with a day full of typical events and meetings, and my body that had decided it was done pretending. But I didn't see it as that. I called it, I need to get it together. And while I did calm myself eventually and make it through that day, that was not the last anxiety attack I had in that role. It took me a long time to understand that in that moment, my body was escalating a signal it had started sending before. Because what I didn't have language for yet was that I was a projector trying to lead and work like a generator. And at some point, my body decided it was no longer going to be polite about that mismatch. Hey there, I'm Carin. And if you're holding your breath through a leadership role that you worked hard to earn, this is for you. You got the title, and you know you're capable of rocking the role, yet you keep asking yourself, why does this feel so hard? Welcome to your career oasis. Exhale, because here we get into what's actually going on. If you're in your first leadership role right now, I'm going to describe something to you, and I want you to listen and silently to yourself think if this sounds familiar. You're working harder than you've ever worked. You're the first one to respond to Slack. You prepare more than anyone else in the room. You typically take on the extra project. You have the extra conversation. And you take on the extra problem that technically isn't even yours because you want to show that you can handle it, that you belong in this role. And you're also exhausted, not tired, exhausted. I'm talking the type of tired that sleep isn't fixing. It follows you through the weekend. And the terrible part of all of this is that even with all of that effort, you still don't feel like enough. There's still a doubt goblin voice in your head that tells you you should be doing more. That voice is conditioning. You might be calling it ambition, but it's not ambition, it is conditioning. So, we're going to talk about where it comes from and why, for most of us, it's not just a mindset problem. Mindset work can help, but this is also a design problem. I want to share what it looked like for me in the director role. I was efficient, very, very efficient, as most projectors are. And in the beginning, that it felt like a compliment because it was. People recognized, wow, you were getting a lot done. But efficiency in that environment came at a cost because the more I could handle, the more I was handed. Give it to Carin. She can handle it. So I kept saying yes in an effort to prove myself. That meant I stopped taking lunch. Then I started coming in early. Then I started staying late. And I kept telling myself that that's just what it takes. This is just a season. Just push through it, Carin. You've got it. Push through it. I was also noticing something else, though, which is that the more I pushed, the more I initiated, and the more I produced, the more I put things out there, being proactive and taking initiative without anybody asking me to, the more resistance I was experiencing, both within myself, but also from the people around me, from my team, from the environment. I didn't understand it then that I was leading without an invitation. And for a projector, that is one of the most exhausting things that you can do. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I left that role still carrying the story that I just wasn't built for leadership. I didn't have a breakthrough moment as a director. It was like, aha, this is what's wrong. It was after that, and after I'd worked on my recovering from serious, serious burnout, That's when I found human design. That's when I learned that I was a projector and that everything I lived through really started to make a lot of sense. That anxiety attack on a Tuesday that the breathing couldn't touch, it wasn't a signal I couldn't handle things. It was a design mismatch. And I didn't have the language for it yet, but that was resulting in a total nervous system meltdown. And that's why I'm talking to you right now, because you're still in it. And you don't have to wait until you're burned out to get the language. You can have it right now. So in the last episode, I mentioned that human design has 5 energy types, 5 fundamentally different ways of moving through the world and using energy. I also mentioned that these types are all meant to complement one another. I'm going to go through those types through a metaphor, and I'm also going to explain the energy behind this. And we're going to tie this back up into my time as a director and the reason why I found myself so burnt out and why you are probably in the same boat. Because once you learn this, you're going to start to see why putting all of us in the same leadership framework and then expecting the same results is absolutely ridiculous. It's like handing everyone the same role in a car and then wondering why the car keeps breaking down or doesn't get to its destination. So I'm going to explain all this through a metaphor of a car. The first energy type is the manifester. Manifestors are the ignition. Okay, they're the ones who start things, who initiate the movement, get the engine turning, they set things in motion, and they don't need consensus to begin. They just go. And then they step back because sustaining momentum isn't actually their job. It's the job of the generator. Sustaining momentum is the job of the engine. And in the lens of human design, the engine is the generator. Generators are the consistent and powerful. They're built to run. They have sustainable energy, an internal battery that is constantly refueling when they're doing work that they love. And most leadership frameworks were built by generators for generators. The assumption that a good leader produces, sustains, and keeps going, what I was trying to do in my director role, that is a generator design, and it works really well for them. The manifesting generator is an engine with GPS that finds the fastest routes. They have the same core power as a generator, but it's less linear. They can move in multiple directions at once, and they can skip steps. They can take the shortcut, right? They can course correct mid-motion. They're incredibly efficient, and it's in a way that looks unconventional. The reflector is the weather report. Okay, they're taking in the full condition of the environment. What do the roads look like? Are they wet? The team, the culture, the energy of everything around them. And then they're reflecting it back with clarity that no one else can offer. Reflectors are very rare, and they're almost always misread as inconsistent when they're actually the most attuned person in the room. And then there's the projector, me, the navigator, not the engine, not the ignition, but the navigator. The one who reads the road and sees what's coming, the one that knows when to take a different route and understands the whole system of the journey in a way that the engine simply can't see from where it sits. And the navigator is not less important than the engine or the ignition or the weather report. The navigator is why you don't drive into a ditch. I'm going to share what it looks like to lead from the wrong design from my experience as a projector. That's the experience I have. So this is to give you an example to impart the importance of understanding your energetics. Even if you're not a projector, this still applies, and you can understand the importance of it and how it applies to you. So when a projector doesn't know that they're the navigator, they tend to climb into the engine compartment and then try to be the engine. Manifestors will also try to do the same thing. Reflectors will also try to do the same thing. Manifesting generators can get away with it because they are part engine. But a projector will try to produce and push and sustain because that is what most leadership looks like in every model they've ever been handed. and that projectors will burn out every time. That is what I was doing in the director. Okay, I was in the engine compartment. I was working harder, producing more, pushing further, and I was getting more and more exhausted and receiving more resistance the longer I stayed. It's all because I wasn't following the strategy for my energy type. So each type that I mentioned has a strategy. Again, I'm not going to deep dive into this here. That's what the free human design for leadership recharge is for. You'll find the link in the show notes. But I am going to mention it because I want to explain why I was exhausted and why you might be exhausted. The strategy is the way that each of us is designed to interact with opportunities and move through the world. Okay, so generators and manifesting generators, you are designed to respond yes or no to what life brings you. It's an internal yes, no. Manifesting generators, the only difference for you is that when you say yes, you are meant to move fast and get shit done. Manifestors, your strategy is to inform, not wait, not ask permission, but just make it happen and let people know you're going to do it. Reflectors, your strategy is to wait a lunar cycle before taking action. You really got to sleep on it, okay, for the better part of a month. But then when you take action, you're going to be super clear. Projectors like me, our strategy is to be recognized and invited. Okay, so if any projectors are listening to this, I want to address something because the first thing that projectors often say is, so I just give up. And that is not what this means, especially for women who in leadership who've had to fight to be in that room. Waiting for recognition just means you're trusting that the people who are ready to be guided will see it instead of burning your energy trying to convince people who aren't. So back to me as a director, I was fighting against my strategy at every turn. I over-explained every decision I made, even when no one asked. I claimed and told myself I was just being really thorough. But what I was really doing was trying to be uncritiquable and unquestionable. I volunteered for every side quest put in front of me. Oh, you need somebody to be on more than one committee? I'm in. I'd love to do that. I thought I was just being helpful, but I was really fighting to try to prove my worth. And if I experienced resistance in any space, I would put even more energy into that space. I would try to win them over because if they could just see how hard I'm working, they will come alongside me. They will not. For my energy type, all of that is the opposite of what I should have been doing and what was actually, all of that was creating more resistance around me. The value of me learning that I am a projector is learning that I don't need to over-explain anything. I think about it, I remind myself this by thinking of Kevin from The Office when he says, "Why waste time, say a lot word when few word do trick?" Now, obviously, I try to use full sentences, but I don't need to over-explain. I need to trust myself and keep my nervous system regulated so that if I do get critiqued or have questions asked, I don't get defensive. I don't need to volunteer for every side quest that comes my way. My energy is naturally seen and recognized by the right people and opportunities. The fact is that the side quests only waste my limited energy and it causes me to drop balls of other things that are important. What I need to do is set boundaries around my time and energy. And if I experience resistance in a space, I do not need to put more energy into that space. What I need to do is back off and let them come to me when they're ready. Every type has their own version of what I just shared. The thing that you do, the story you tell yourself about it, what's actually happening, and what you actually should be doing instead. Your version of what I just shared is different, but the core is the same, which is leading from your design instead of someone else's template is going to bring more peace and ease into your leadership. So going back to the anxiety attacks I was having, those came from a buildup of what I've described here and more. And that came over time. The anxiety attacks were a signal that things were off. Like I mentioned at the top that escalated. It actually just started with like a small knot in my stomach or tension in my shoulders. Eventually, I had some tears because that's something that's very typical with me when I feel frustrated, especially. And I just wrote this off as stress, but they're actually signals that it's deeper than stress. And it's time to stop ignoring those. Okay, so let's make a connection between them. This week, I want you to get curious about one signal your body has been sending that you've been explaining away. Is it a conversation with a specific person that makes your heart race? Or a situation in which you find your chest tightens up every time? Is it a work stream that leaves you feeling really drained? Or is it a feedback that you have to give that has your stomach in knots? Okay, you don't have to know what it means quite yet. You just have to stop telling it to be quiet and start giving it some TLC. Start paying attention to it. Start getting curious. If you want to understand your specific design from the lens of leadership, that is what the free leadership recharge is for. The guide and private podcast put all of this into practical application for you. So you can grab that using the link in the show notes. And if you want to dive deeper into your specific design, that is what a one on one reading is for. We meet, personalized 75-minute call, and we dive deep into it and apply it to the specific challenges that you're currently having. So the link for that is also in the show notes. Until next time.